What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Sunbelt Syndicate. We had a lot of homework to do for this one, I feel like, man. Like figuring out who's going up, who's going down, what could happen if so-and-so wins or so-and-so loses, right? I mean, feels like work.
I mean, yeah, but I guess that's the beauty of this new bracket.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw the clip I put out earlier. I think I tagged you in it, though. But someone on Twitter, and I don't know which account, so I'm apologizing to whatever account I don't know off the top of my head, but someone described it as the Mortal Kombat style tournament, which is
I did see that clip.
Yeah, because if you grew up playing video games, Mortal Kombat is a one-off. You know, you win, you move on, you lose, you're done, right? And a lot of people are very familiar with that. Also, shout out to ULM baseball staff. Hooked us up with some hats and some T-shirts. I know I've been doing a lot of App State stuff this week with a baseball guest who was from App State. We did the football show last night that was app specific. I try not to be too much of a homer, trying to spread the love around, especially to those who showed it to us. So shout out to Coach Fed over there at ULM for hooking us up. I will gladly support some more Hawks gear, and we'll see what they can get done in this tournament. Unfortunately, not probably the highest hopes going in. Did you see the crowd the other night, Zach?
Yeah, like 50 people. They reported like 1,500 too, which is
really
interesting.
Yeah, I saw. I guess did you see it from the JMU side of things? Because that's
the when they were running out the tunnel.
Yeah, I was like, well, the quote said, "We're gonna have to bring our own energy tonight." It's like, yikes, that's a little rough, but also probably true. Resident A-State fan Ben James making his presence known. What's up, Ben? Thanks for tuning in, man. I know he's been on me, man. He's like, when is the basketball show going live? Because I know last week, because of some scheduling things, I wasn't quite sure if we could go live right when I say it. So we pre-recorded and then we kind of put it out as a live afterward. But we're also streaming live on TikTok. You can see all the ugliness of the unfinished basement from that view. So if you jump over to TikTok, you'll see a whole different side of this podcast tonight for those who just want to see what it looks like throughout the rest of this place. All right, look at this. We got a new viewer, Michael Bias, saying, "Hey, I'm new here. Go Herd." And we have a lot to say about the Marshall Thundering Herd coming in because they are making some moves up the standings and up the bracket, right? I mean, I don't know. Do you remember exactly, maybe, Zach, where you had Marshall before the year started? Because I don't think I had him.
I had him like mid-pack.
Did you? Okay. I want to say I wish I had burned that out or had that in front of me because I don't remember off the top of my head.
Mine pretty quick.
Yeah. Okay. Find that because I know that we probably were both wrong, really, because of what Marshall had lost after last year. Obviously,
new coach.
Yes, exactly. A lot of question marks, I guess, is what we had thought. And Ben is saying he's got something about the Arkansas State women's basketball team. All right, Ben. Yeah, open to share, man. I'd love to do men's and women's, make it fair across the board and keep intrigue up on both sides. I'll be honest, I can't keep up with both. So we've got to focus on one. But yeah, if you've got a tidbit that's really interesting, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually had Marshall 10th.
Did you? Okay. I want to say probably about the same. So very, very well done by the Marshall Thundering Herd this season to get up to where they had been. Ben's quote here is, "Sunbelt Lady Red Wolves finishing last in conference and now can't finish worse than third place." The Sunbelt had placed A-State last, and now they can't finish any worse than third place, which is phenomenal. I mean, you got some stuff that happened like that in football, but we'll see what happens with the A-State ladies team. Chris Howell, go Red Wolves, had a regression for 3 games with injuries, but I'm hoping we're getting healthy. Always good to whip ULL. Cajuns there. All right, well, we've got some people tuning in. We've got some stuff started up, so let's go ahead and jump into it. First up is a look at the standings. Obviously, this is going to help us get to the bracket through some of my own research and comparing to what other people had. I do believe we have these standings correct, not only as they look on the screen, but also where they would place within the bracket, which we'll jump to here in a minute. But I don't know. Is there really anything sticking out? I mean, kind of a little bit of a logjam up there towards the top, really. You've got 4 teams that have got a shot to take first place. I mean, technically there's going to be the tiebreakers. JMU obviously owns some of them. But they win, they're in as number one, right? Easy.
Yeah, I guess I'm kind of surprised with how many teams are competing up at the top. Like, I'm looking at my preseason, and I had like tier 1. I had Arkansas State and JMU with like Troy's like a close third, but like, yeah, I thought those two were going to be like the cream of the crop in the sunbelt, but it looks like it hasn't been that case.
Yeah, it does not appear that way. I know we both had South Alabama way down. I think both of us had them in the bottom
13th.
13th, yeah. I think I was right with you. That might have been one of the ones I had exactly the same as you. Shout out to App State Nation 900. What's up, men? That's Neil, a good buddy that sends some messages in the background, tuning in over on Instagram. So I've got those comments running live tonight. I've got TikTok over here behind me, so I can't really see those. It's a small screen, so it's hard to see those ones there. But South Alabama, certainly the surprise team. I took a chance. We can all laugh now, right? I took a chance on ULM being kind of a surprise team. Didn't work out so well, right, Zach?
Yeah, that was the team that, you had them as like your like sleeper in the conference.
Yeah,
I had them last by like a mile.
Yeah, you look like the smarter one there. I probably should have just listened to your intuition on those guys.
Well, there's some teams in here that I definitely was not too smart about.
Yeah, well, some of them are a little rough, like you said. I mean, it's hard to always predict when you've got a new coach and a ton of new players, right? We've seen it in football. We've seen it on a couple basketball teams as well. You can flip a team from like worst to first. I mean, the best example for football is Arizona State, right? They came in a little bit of an unknown this year, picked last by the conference and the coaches before the season started, and guess what? Ended up in the 12-team playoff. So we're not the only ones that have a little funny look. There's some experts out there for football that didn't know what they were talking about either. So sometimes you hit, sometimes you miss. One that's fallen off a little bit here is App State. I'm kind of surprised that they're now 10-7 after what they look like. I mean, they could have been battling for the first spot a week and a half ago, I feel like, right?
Yeah, I think they just rely on two players way too much. Like, they don't have like a consistent third guy like stepping up for them. It's pretty much all Tate and Huntley.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Neil's brought that up too, and Neil's saying Marshall looks solid. No great presence at center, but pretty good. Yeah, I got a nice stat for that, and why I'm probably leaning towards the Marshall side of things for this last matchup was just unfortunate for some App fans to hear, but that's just how I feel at this point. Only one thing I noticed, Red Wolves haven't lost 10-plus games right now. The only team in the conference under double-digit losses. Only by one to the three teams technically above them due to tiebreakers. But yes, they are the only team with a single digit in the loss column. So that is a little bit of an interesting fact there, Ben. Sunbelt Conference should definitely get a couple of bids to the tournament instead of one. Ooh, Zach, I'm going to say I disagree with that, actually. What do you think?
Not this year, no.
Yeah. I don't.
In previous years, maybe.
I was going to say, last year with App State and JMU.
And then 2 years ago, I think it was Southern Miss and
Louisiana.
Yeah,
because Louisiana made the big dance and almost took Tennessee to the brink.
Yeah, but in terms of like regular season, I think it was Southern Miss and Marshall, I think, in terms of regular season, who were like two like really good teams. And then Louisiana kind of came in like out of nowhere as like the third or fourth seed and won it. But yeah, in those years, maybe two teams, but not this year.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. If A-State had lived up to expectation, and obviously they're tied for second, one game out of first, so it's not like they're bad. But I think a lot of people expected A-State to be like, I don't know. Zach, what do you think? I thought like 4 or 5 loss team maybe at the most.
Yeah, I mean, they beat Memphis. That's a top 20 team, top 15 team.
There you go. There's Ben's comment. Red Wolves have the only AP top 25 win versus Memphis. Yeah. Oh, I have the stats in front of me. Here's one reason you're not going to get a lot of respect nationally for the Sun Belt getting more than one berth. That was the only win versus a ranked opponent. The conference went 0-4 the rest of the way. In fact, A-State lost another game to another ranked team. So that's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 0 for 9 versus ranked opponents. Now, some of those ranked games were against our lesser teams, and they're not going to be likely to be victories, but a tough look when you're trying to gauge and position yourself for national prominence. Plus, Zach, what did we just review the other week? The Sunbelt MAC Challenge. How did that end up? We didn't dominate the Sunbelt MAC
12-12.
if you want a 2-bid league, if you want more than one team in, you've got to prove against another conference head to head that you are far and away a little bit better, at least your top teams. And even that didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
Not good. Chris Al says injuries all year severely suck. Yeah. I mean, that was not me saying A-State is a bad team. There was injuries, but with the depth that they had and the bench that they had, I still thought they could get it done even with some injuries.
Even with the injuries, I still think they were deep enough and talented enough to be the best team in the conference.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I do think, and they might still kind of technically be. You hear a big argument from JMU fans, and rightly so, because they are positioned in first place at the moment. But I think that would be another great matchup, a rematch of last year's championship game when it came down to the sunbelt. So we'll see what happens there. Neil saying App has no third option for free throw shooting. Last year, too, not this year. No one impressive that came to Boone. So, as far as big-time players who came in that could take over and dominate a game, it was the guys that are left over from last year. He's absolutely correct. They got some pieces that maybe some people expected to be very good. I think Babrin is one that you and I both, Zach, thought would come in and be pretty dominant down low for App State. And he's had some games, but like you said before, and Neil's saying now, it's not even really a third option for him as far as the scoring goes. Ben, with one more note before we move on to the bracket look, Red Wolves only lost by 9 to Alabama in the season, which obviously now it's not an ugly loss at all. So there's one that you can point to for how good A-State can be when they are on and shooting on all cylinders. He's playing WWE 2K24 while watching and listening. So we appreciate that, man. Multitasking. I can't do stuff like that, man. I got to be focused on one thing. Zach, are you a gamer?
Yeah. I play games all the time.
Nice, man. Are you good?
Yeah. I mean, I don't try to be good. Like if I am good, like it just happens. I just do it to have fun with my friends, but
nice. Well, hopefully we can have some fun with our friends here on the stream as we continue on. I like the interaction, man. I don't know. I guess it's because it's right near the end of the season. We got a lot
been the most by far.
Yeah, it's great, man. I love this. And I think
too.
We kind of push this too as a way to understand what's going on and get a better look at everything that's happening. I'm going to put this as full screen since it's a little bit smaller of a graphic. So here is what the current outlook would be. Again, pretty sure 90+% sure that I've got this correct, comparing notes to Craig Stevenson, Kara Ritchie, some of my own stuff, just double check some of their work. But I do believe we are all set with this. Now, having said that, that is the current right now, tonight outlook, and tomorrow night, this will obviously change in some aspects. Although we're going to get to the games and see how strongly we think. What did we say right before we went live? Is USM is the only one currently locked in a place and cannot move up or down, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so they will be the 12th seed after tomorrow night, no matter what happens the rest of the way. I think everybody else could move. Did Coastal and ULM go head-to-head all this year?
Yeah, Coastal beat them.
Okay, so Coastal would own the tiebreaker, but because they still have the same record, they could flip spots. So that one is still technically up for grab. And that could be a big difference, right? I mean, I guess you're asking yourself whether you'd like to play Southern Miss or possibly ODU. Again, another game that could change. ODU, I think Georgia Southern and ODU could flip spots. Yes, because they're both with 7 and 10 records right now within the conference. So much that could be changing. But let's go back to you. You a couple weeks ago, a week or two ago, you were talking about Coastal making a run. With this current setup, do you still feel as confident as matching up against, I don't know, the Cajuns or Georgia State earlier? If you get by Southern Miss, if that's who you even play, or if you end up on the other side of the bracket, give me your thoughts there between those two starts that you could have.
I mean, obviously we beat Southern Miss in Southern Miss by 9, I believe, but up double digits most of the game. So I think that's the ideal matchup. It comes down to it. It's either going to be, I think, it looks like it'll be Georgia Southern, ODU, or Southern Miss in the first round for Coastal. Same with ULM. So yeah, I like that. And then should have beat Louisiana, but didn't, obviously, and then just beat Georgia State yesterday. So that's a fair start to the bracket. But like I said, 7 games in 7 days is going to be tough, no matter who you play.
Yeah, there's no joking about that. It's going to be one hell of a gauntlet for anybody to run. I mean, I think you're even looking as far back as Marshall and App State. I don't think anyone from there even has a easy path, so to speak. I mean, those top 4 teams I feel like are really strong top 4 teams that no one's going to go up against thinking it's going to be some kind of easy matchup. Sometimes I feel like last year a lot of people thought, App and JMU were clearly the top 2 teams. Maybe there's a third team. Obviously, A-State got hot at that point, but I don't know if going into the tournament a lot of people thought they were going to end up at the very end. I think this year no one would be surprised if any of those 4 teams end up in the championship game. You can correct me if I'm wrong on that, Zach. I would not be surprised to see any combination of those 4 in the final 2.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect 2 of those 4 to be in the championship game. Yeah, I think those are probably those are the 4 best teams in the conference, I think. And they're going to be so much more rested. Yeah,
exactly. The only thing is, if you got a team who did win 2, maybe 3 at the most in a row coming in, you can't afford a cold, sluggish start. We'll see if that is something that comes into play. But yeah, you got to think that you are definitely favored as one of those top 4 teams trying to get to that championship game, because you've got the much, much easier path. Chris Al saying, I'm surprised by Texas State being so low. They looked better earlier in the year. I actually thought, even with some of the results lately, they were still playing pretty well overall and kind of dangerous. And I think, Zach, you might have even been the first one to say that, and the reason I started thinking that way. So I'll give you full credit on that. But yeah, I think Texas State's kind of one of those teams from the outside that maybe, I don't know, has the pieces to make a little bit of a run. Didn't you kind of say that last time?
Yeah, I like them. But like several teams in the conference, injuries and depth have hurt them a lot this year.
Yeah, definitely not going to be easy with.
I mean, playing like 7-8 guys plus injuries.
Yeah, I looked at just a couple box scores, when I was doing my research today, and I feel like A-State has a whole second team plus some on their bench, right? And most of them
they have guys that will like start one game and then play like 1 minute the next.
Yes, I saw that too. I'm like, okay, this is one of their kind of better players. He played 6 minutes. Like, what's happening? Maybe.
And then the next game he'll start and have 30.
Yeah. And 18 points. Like, they have guys who just go and turn it on. So you've got to think that the Red Wolves stand a great chance to go on a run here, because they have that depth that other teams are lacking. I believe it was ULM that I looked at, and I think it was just their last game. If it wasn't, it was the game before. 3 guys came off the bench, and 3 guys were the only ones listed as bench players. So it's not like they had 4, 5, 6 guys and 3 or 4 of them didn't touch the court. They had 3 bench players listed. All of them saw time on the court, and that was it. That was as deep as their bench went. Now, I'm not familiar with the ins and outs of the ULM program at the moment, if they've got 3 or 4 guys injured, but going to be hard to compete in a tournament, regular season too, but specifically a tournament where you're playing that many straight games with no bench. And I think that's what the Warhawks would be bad on.
Yeah, later, I mean, you see teams across the country do it all the time. Like, the later they get in the year, they kind of shorten the bench just to get the best players on the court as much as possible. But, like, I mean, it's kind of hard when you have 7, 8 guys from the start of the year, and then, like, you can't shorten the bench at all. And those 8 guys are playing all the minutes all year. So that's hard to do. And then plus, in a tournament like this, you're going to need some guys deep in the bench that step up.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't just hope that your starting 5 get it done, because there's a reason that they give 6 Man of the Year awards, right? Because those guys are vitally important to the success of a basketball team. So a couple other quick notes. JMU, 5-game win streak. Okay, so they keep that rolling and they turn it into more. They only have to turn it into really 1 or 2 more and end up in a championship game, though. So again, there's the advantage to being so good throughout the regular season. And I think that's important, right? They talk all the time about not rewarding the teams for having a good regular season. This may be the most rewarding conference tournament there is. Do you know anyone who does it like this, Zach, besides the Sunbelt? Is there any other tournament that does it this way?
What is it? The one with Gonzaga in it. The WCC, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think you're right.
Yeah, they do it like this, I'm pretty sure.
They just don't have as many teams, maybe. Is that
they have like 8 or 10.
Okay. So that makes more sense, because people are just saying the gauntlet. I almost want to see one team run at least a little bit of a way, because I think, like, nationally people would start trying to.
Yeah, it would definitely get attention on the conference if a team like in the bottom 4 makes it to Arkansas State or Troy or something.
That would be one hell of a run too. Because I think maybe not all the same, but I think there could be dangerous teams in Georgia State, Texas State, App State, and Marshall. I think they all have aspects where they could get on fire and roll a little bit. Maybe not for 4 or 5 games, but they could do it for 2 or 3. So, yeah, a team coming from the bottom 4 to get past all that to make it to Arkansas State and Troy, that'd be pretty incredible. Let's see. Ben's got a comment here. Rest could be bad for the top 4 teams because it could be costly if they're rested too long. Yeah, he probably tried to make that point as we were kind of talking about it as well. Michael's saying, and I noticed the Sunbelt Sports posted attendance numbers for basketball, and all 4 new members are in the top 5. I'd be surprised if Southern Miss was in there.
Yeah, probably not this year. Definitely not this year.
Not this year. Yeah, they've been
in previous years, definitely.
Yeah, but Marshall, JMU, ODU, absolutely. I think we'll see baseball numbers greatly favor the deeper South, and we'll see basketball numbers greatly favor the teams more north. App State being up there as well, I believe, this year. Had some games where it wasn't great attendance, but they did have some ones where, closer to a sellout. I don't believe they sold out a single game this year, though, so be interesting to see. And ODU, again, we've said it before, we'll say it again, full credit for those people and those fans in that Norfolk area who come out and continue to watch that basketball team. And as you can see here with the bracket on the screen, 11th place team. And they are still, I don't think they're number 1 this year, actually, because I think A-State owns the mark right now, but they are still up there in attendance. That might be average. There's people that put out average attendance and there's people that put out total. So you could go back and forth. I think there are 2 different teams first when you compare those 2 metrics. But regardless, ODU fans still showing up even in a bad year, down year. So full credit there. Dominguez scored 18 against Memphis and didn't touch the court for a few games. Yeah, he just had another big game here recently. Remind me who was number 1 in attendance. Yeah, I think we just did. I believe it's A-State in I guess maybe it's total attendance or maybe it's average attendance that they're in legal. They have one of them and the other team has the other because I think it is different. But regardless, still very good for both teams in that one. And Red Wolves to own the conference with most attendance. I think that means total. So total number, they've had the most people. I believe maybe ODU has the highest average. Incredible stuff. All right. That was a look at the bracket. I guess, Zach, did you want to cover anything more in the bracket while we had it up?
No, I think we got it all.
Oh, I did have a couple more real quick notes. Marshall, 3-game winning streak right now before Friday happens. ODU has lost 6 straight games. Southern Miss, 7 straight games. So you're going into a tournament bracket where you have to battle your way up. Those 2 teams in the bottom 4 at the moment, losing 6 and 7 games in a row. Yikes. There's a couple other teams that could be up or down based on 2 in a row. Arkansas State and Troy both won 2 in a row. App State lost 2 in a row. So we'll see what happens with those 2. I think Friday is going to be a big determining factor on whether those teams come in hot or have a loss right before, or as App State's case, maybe have a win coming in, but that's not going to be easy. Okay, we will go in order as the games will appear on your TV or ESPN Plus, as most of them will be on. Technically, all of them will be on ESPN Plus, but the nightcap is also going to be on ESPNU as well. Another note real quick from Chris Howe. ODU is impressive being number 2 in attendance, but being 11th place. Imagine what they'll be like if number 1. Yeah. They were number 1 earlier this year, right, Zach? Remember that was a little bit of a surprise there to us. Terrible outside of the conference to start the year, but they owned the conference early, and then it got a little tougher for them, and maybe we saw some depth issues, some things that came into play with a brand new coach and a brand new staff to learn from. But okay, first up, Friday, 7:30. I guess there's actually a couple games at the same time, but Friday, 7:30, 6:30 Central. We've got ODU traveling to see you, Zach, down in Conway. You said they're doing a giveaway. They're doing another jersey giveaway for this one, or was that the previous?
No, that was last night. Yep. That was, okay. Yeah, tomorrow's senior night. Yep, I did.
Nice. So you got black and a teal now? Is that what it is?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Nice. That is, I think, we were talking about it off screen last time. That is a pretty damn cool promotion. I don't think I've ever been to any college basketball game where they were literally giving out jerseys. So that's great stuff to hear from Coastal, and pretty awesome for the fans, specifically the students, because they're the ones you want to get to the games. Was people still taking them and not heading in, though?
Yeah, but I mean, yesterday there was a little less people just because there's like a bunch of like intramural sports and like clubs doing stuff. So not as many kids showing up yesterday's to the other jersey giveaway.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense. All right. So I'll start it off. Prediction time, right? We'll go quickly into that instead of breaking this down. Coastal's home record sits at 6-7. Not great. Okay. But hovering right there around 500. ODU's road record, just 4-7 on the year. So that's not going to do them any favors, right? 7-10 in the conference overall, 11th place versus 13th place. These teams cannot switch positions here, but both teams could move with the right result in their favor.
Well, Coastal can't move up; they can only move down. And then
I guess that's
ODU
true.
Can't move down; they can only move up. So
there you go.
I think if Coastal wins, it's locked in as the 11th and the 13th.
Okay. That would make sense. Well, I've got ODU averaging just over 72 points a game in that 6-game stretch that they've been losing on, allowing almost 82. So you're looking at a 10-point margin right there. Over that same stretch, Coastal Carolina only scoring 67.5, but they've only allowed 73.3. So I think this one's going to come down to a little bit better and a little bit more important defensive play. And Zach, you've said if Coastal's playing their game, they want to play the defensive side of the ball. They want to win that aspect, and then hopefully, do just enough to outscore the other team. I'm going to predict Coastal does that, especially here on senior night. Let's go to your prediction because you'll be in attendance for this one. So what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I think at the start of the year, it was pretty obvious that Coastal wanted to lean into defense and hold teams to under, I think Justin Gray said under 60. But, late in the later the year goes, it's harder to rely on that just because you get worn down. But they're finally finding some guys that can step up and score the ball, which has been really good for them. I think the last 5 games, Coastal's looked really good, even though there's some losses in there. Going back to the App State game, they lost by 18, but I think we said this on the last one, it didn't seem like an 18-point loss. That was a close game for pretty much the whole game. But
I feel like the fouls at the end got that one to be a lot different of a margin, yeah.
But the last 5, Battle's averaging 16 a game the last 5. Ammenhauser's averaging 17-7 in the last 5. And then Mio, he's come on really good, and he's averaging 13 in the last 5. So they're finding guys that can step up, score the ball. They're playing their best. They're playing really good right now. It's probably the best they played all year. So yeah, I'll go with Coastal, especially on senior night. Want to send out those guys on a good note, especially 2 of their 3 guys they're going to be celebrating. Colin Granger and Henry Abraham have done some really good things. Coastal's been playing good. Those are 2 big reasons why they've been playing good. So they're going to send those guys out on the right note. And I think, Coastal wins.
Nice. All right. So I got Coastal winning. You got Coastal winning. Chris Howe has Coastal winning by 4. Very descriptive answer. I love it. But we do have 2 people on the opposite side of the spectrum. We've got Ben James predicting an ODU victory and Michael Bias also predicting an ODU victory. But with our 3 going up against their 2, Coastal's going to take this one. Maybe by even less than 4 points. But I like that Chris Howe said exactly 4 points. I like that he's got an exact output there. This one is one put a single dime on, though. It's one of those ones that's literally coin toss as far as what my decision was and why. I obviously have some stuff to back it up, and I do feel strongly that a home game on senior night is a way to go out, and they're going to want to go out on top in that one. We'll see if that
this game probably won't start at 7:30 either. I'm just saying because the girls play right before it.
Wait. Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say
girls App State. No, the girls App State game is right before that, and it's senior night for them. So it probably won't start until probably 7:40, 7:45. That's what it started last night. So
okay.
Plus seniors, so they'll probably start. Yeah, definitely late.
Yeah, good point. All right, same start time, but maybe earlier because of what Zach just let us know. 7:30, 6:30 Central. Arkansas State traveling on the road to play ULM. Again, Warhawks, as I'm proudly supporting on the shirt right now, is currently sitting at 3-14, just like Coastal, but they are 14th because of the tiebreaker. Arkansas State 12-5 in the conference. Technically, tiebreaker has them in 4th, even though they are tied for second when you look at the record aspect alone. I'll start off again, unless you want to go first this time, Zach, or you want me to go first again?
I'll go. I'll just say Arkansas State's going to win. I mean, I don't think it's too hard.
I did try and pull a little bit more because I had the same feeling.
It could be a trap game. I mean, we've seen ULM give some of the good teams a little bit of problems at home, just not being able to finish it. But I think it should be an easy Arkansas State win.
Yeah, Ben James obviously is going to go with the Red Wolves victory. Michael doing the same. Arkansas State wins. Ben's going strong. He's saying Red Wolves by 20. So here's maybe why he's saying that. The last matchup, the Red Wolves won by 25. They won 95-70. So there is past history. Prior results do lead you to believe that this one could get out of hand. Wolves had 4 players in double figures, and Isaiah Nelson with a double-double. A-State with the much deeper bench, kind of mentioned that already, but they had 5 players at 5 minutes or more in the last matchup between these two teams. ULM, again, just 3 total bench players. So they just have depth. The Wolves do that they can throw at the Warhawks that the Warhawks just can't compete with. Plain and simple. There's a reason this one team's up at the top and one team's down towards the bottom. So, yeah, I don't think this one's hard to predict or believe is going to go one way or another. This one I definitely have stronger feelings on. A-State takes that one. It could even turn into a laugher. Hopefully not for the competitive nature of the conference, but prior history leads us to believe that one could get out of hand. Okay, Friday night, 8 Eastern, 7 Central this time, as JMU travels to San Marcos to play Texas State. Again, JMU, first place, 13-4 in conference. Texas State sitting in 7th due to tiebreakers at 8 and 9. I guess I'll start quickly on this one. I've got the Dukes winning it, but there's only one matchup between the two, obviously. This is the second one. I misread that. This is the only matchup between these two teams. They did not match up twice this year. This will be it. So there's really no great history to pull. So what I did is I took verse-like opponents, okay? All of JMU's scores versus the teams that Texas State also played compared to each other. JMU, 11-4 against those same teams. Texas State, just 7-8. So that leads me to believe that the Dukes can get it done. Freeman also averaging 20 points over the 5-game win streak that they're currently on. Lindsay has scored no less than 14 a game in that same stretch. I believe one of those games, 2 of those games were 20 or more because the one game was him with 23 points being the leading scorer over Freeman in that case. Do you have Texas State surprising anybody here, Zach, or are you going with the Dukes as well?
I was really thinking about picking Texas State, but I'll lean with JMU just because they're hot. They're going to be up for it because, I mean, if they win, they win the regular season title solely. So, yeah, I'll lean JMU, but I wouldn't be surprised if Texas State pulls one off.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. That trip to Texas from Harrisonburg, Virginia is definitely a plane ride. One of the longer trips they'll make probably.
Well, from ULM for them.
That's right.
They were at ULM yesterday.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay. So not as bad. But now you do have to say that they've continued to be on the road. So still maybe a little bit of an aspect of what could be at play. But you're right. They're battling for first place overall. They know what that seed means because technically if they get into tiebreakers, they could end up all the way down in 4th place. Doubt that's going to happen, but it's possible. And they may even own some of the tiebreakers. They can't be any worse than second or something. Didn't break all of those scenarios down because there could be so many of them. All right, so we've got some interesting things here. Well, first of all, going back to the Red Wolves game, didn't see this one from Chris. Red Wolves by 18 after leading by 20 plus the entire game. So he thinks they'll cut the deficit by 2 right near the end. So Ben is thinking in this one with JMU, Texas State, the Bobcats are going to win by 2. Michael is the opposite, agreeing with the two of us, saying JMU wins. Hal is cheering for Texas State, but saying JMU wins by 1. Head over heart there because he's obviously cheering for Texas State to take care of the team in front of his in the bracket and the standings. I like this one, right? Last regular season game of the year, and you've got the in-state matchup featuring Georgia State traveling to Georgia Southern. These two teams not far apart in the standings. Georgia State at number 8. Georgia Southern sitting at 10th, but just one game of separation in the standings. So a little bit of movement that could happen here in this one. Do you want to take the first look or first pick in this one?
I'll go Georgia State on the road. I think, like we said all year, they have a couple of shooters who, if they're hot, they're almost unbeatable. Like no matter who they play, but it's just whether they get hot or not. They play small rotation, which can be worrying, but I mean it really hasn't affected them much this year. And then a guy like Jelani Hamilton, who had a big game yesterday, he's finally starting to become another guy for them. So yeah, I'll go with Georgia State coming into Georgia Southern and getting a win.
Nice. I almost went that way. This was just like the Coastal ODU game for me. I could toss a coin in the air, assign one heads, one tails, and just go with wherever it lands because I don't think strongly I feel either way in this matchup. But I've got something to back up my pick of Georgia Southern over Georgia State. The Panthers took the first matchup 82-78, but that one was at home, obviously, as this is the return game. 4 games in a row for Georgia State on the road. So this will be their 4th on a row. Again, obviously, is basketball. You come home in between some of those. But, and again, not a long road trip. This is a very easy bus ride down from Atlanta to Statesboro. But nonetheless, away from home court. Eagles, 3 losses over their last 7 games were to JMU twice and App State. So, kind of comparing similar losses recently, you got to look at Georgia Southern losses as 2 better quality opponents. So I think the fact that they've dropped a couple could be misleading because I think they've still been competing pretty well in those games. You know, maybe the App State loss is not as great because they're a little bit closer in the standings now. But again, App State does have the ability to have a pretty good game. So I'm going to lean Georgia Southern. It looks like Ben James is going Southern by 3. Got a couple more people picking out exact scores here. I like this. Michael is going with Georgia State winning that game. App State News, Weston is going with it's going to be a shootout. And I truly believe that that's probably true in this one. A little bit less defense, a little bit more scoring could certainly be the case there. Georgia State is streaky. They'll be hot this game and win. That is the prediction from Chris Howe there. So I like it. I like this, man. We got a lot of people coming with a lot of predictions. Maybe we should do like a competition when it comes to the tournament time, something we can try and put together in the background and have some fun with. All right, another game at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 Central. Cajuns traveling on the road to South Alabama. Man, before the season started, this one was one that I would have circled to say don't miss this one, right? Like, could be really good. Now, not so much. Although, I don't know. We both miscorrectly picked where South Alabama was going to end up. But with what they've done in past years, you could have said that this was going to be a big one. Not so sure it's quite as big. 12-5 second place South Alabama, again, due to tiebreakers versus 8-9 Cajuns sitting currently in 9th place. I don't know. I said watch for this one to be closer than some of the experts or maybe Vegas expects. I don't know if you feel that way at all, Zach. I mean, you think South Alabama runs away with this one, or you feeling kind of similar?
No, I think it can be a close game. I mean, you look at Louisiana's last 5 games. They're 3-2 with their 2 losses being Troy and Arkansas State. Those are some good losses. And then yes. South Alabama, I mean, they've won 4 of their last 5, and their only loss is to Texas State on a game-winning shot in overtime. So, I mean, these are 2 teams that have been playing really well lately. But I'll go with South Alabama at home.
I like it. I also am leaning South Alabama over the Cajuns. But the reason I think this game will be closer than some people think. That game on, I think it was Wednesday night, yes, Cajuns, very physical game against A-State Wednesday night. Now, they got beat up pretty good in that first half where they were outscored 44-28. So not a good start, not something that they were going to be able to compete with. However, they battled back in the second half and only lost in the second half specifically by a margin of 39-36. Okay, so they didn't win either half. Okay, I'm not saying that they all of a sudden came back and made this miraculous run. They still lost comfortably to A-State. However, the physicality got them back in that game and kept that gap from getting wider. It actually got a lot smaller because they competed a lot better. If they can start off like that, I think this game is closer because of that fact. However, if they don't do that, I think Miles Corey and Barry Doney Jr. prevail by just outscoring them in the end because those two guys are extremely talented. And that's why I'm going with South Alabama in this one. Ben is saying Jags by 10. I could see that. I could see a 10-point, but with some foul shots, but at 5 to 6 to 7 before some of those happen. Michael also going with the Jags in that one. 8:30, 7:30 Central start between Troy and Southern Miss. Troy in third. Southern Miss, as we said, will not move up or down, not depending on any results. This cannot move. They will be in 12th place once this tournament starts next week. Who you got in this one?
Troy. Southern Miss, 7-game losing streak. Some things going on behind the scenes, maybe possibly fans not too happy with the staff. Probably not going to be a ton of people there, so not like a tough environment that we're used to seeing Troy go into there in Hattiesburg. And then Troy has been consistently one of the better teams in the conference for the last several years. So I'll go Troy.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with you there. Troy over Southern Miss. Southern Miss scoring just over 70 points a game in those last 7 that they've lost, allowing over 79. That 9-point deficit is the exact same margin they lost to Troy to earlier this season. So it's too much coincidence for me to say, oh, they've been losing games by 9 points on average. They lost to this same team by 9 points last time. Yeah, I think I'll go with Troy. That would also give Troy their 20th win of the year, I believe, right? Let me double check that real quick.
Yep. They're 19-10.
What they've done it 3 years in a row, I think. So this would now be the 4th year if they get this victory to get to 20 wins. Doesn't necessarily get you a tournament representation or a postseason bid anywhere, but still something to hang your hat on because it's hard to win 20 that many years in a row. Again, like you said, Curbelo kicked off the team. I mean, does that help USM? Maybe. I don't know. Maybe there's a better chemistry because he's gone. I don't know, but that's a talent that you, from the outside, you don't want to lose, right? So that's not going to happen. I think this one could get out of hand even. I think it could be one of the bigger margins.
I would have thought the same about the South Alabama Southern Miss game the other day.
True.
But Southern Miss kind of made that game close.
Yeah, it's a good point. Ben does seem to agree, though. Trojans by a lot. Michael also saying Troy with the blowout. Yeah, I think you've got a Troy team who could be battling up there towards first place with the tiebreaker and procedures and whatnot. So they're going to want to win for a multitude of reasons. We'll see if they're able to pull off the victory. Okay, the nightcap. 9 o'clock Eastern, 8 Central. This one, again, it will be on ESPN Plus as well, but it will also be on national television on ESPNU as Marshall versus App State was elevated. What is it, 2 weeks ago that they announced that this game was going to be on TV?
I think it was last week.
Last week?
It wasn't that long ago.
Which ends up probably being one of the better matchups, really, right? You've got the 5th seed going up against the 6th seed. One game separates them. They just had a game that was relatively close till the very end in App that Marshall took the victory on. But now you're going to go up to Huntington, West Virginia on senior night where the Herd can jump even farther up with a victory. Not going to be easy. Zach, I'm going to lean on you to take the first pick here as I'll wrap it up from the App State side of things.
Yeah, I memean, App State, like you said earlier in the episode, has been disappointing lately. They've lost the last 2, and then Marshall's on a 3-game win streak at home, senior night. I'll go with Marshall.
Yeah. Last game was exactly a 10-point difference, 69-59. I think the house is going to be rocking for this one. I think Marshall fans are kind of getting pumped up here, like you said. That's not necessarily a big win streak, but enough at the right time of the year to get excitement going heading into the tournament. And I think these fans, may even be thinking that there could be a run in this Herd team. I mean, they've got the pieces. We've talked about this before. App State, 2 options. Miles Tate, C.J. Huntley. If they can't find a third, maybe even a fourth in this game, I don't know. It could be worse than the last game at home in Boone. So not feeling real comfortable as an App State fan on the side of this one because I think Marshall's got what it takes. Meanwhile, the Herd on their side there, 5 players averaging double-figure point totals per game. That's Anochili Killen, Dawson, Mingo, Spear, and Martin. That's right. 5 guys, 10 points or more season average. That's not the last couple games. That's their season average. They've got 5 players on the floor who are averaging over 10 points a game. Incredible stuff. That's the kind of team that has some depth just kind of like A-State does, except theirs is maybe more spread out throughout the entire roster. Marshall seems to be a little bit more top heavy. So, you do need to have most of those guys on it for a night. But yeah, I think I'm leaning towards that guy. Those guys, I guess I should say. Michael obviously saying Marshall's going to win, but again, specific with a 5-point total in the favor of the herd. Ben thinks it's going to be a little closer, still taking Marshall, but only by 2 points. And Chris Howell saying game of the week, go App. So A-State fan cheering on the Mountaineers, maybe not cheering on, pulling for a little bit more of the Mountaineers in that one. Enjoy the finales as we get to those. Kind of a good way to end. I mean, there's a couple games where maybe not the most exciting, right? But I feel like there's a couple really good matchups in there too.
Yeah, I mean, the games might not be the best, but a lot of them have big implications on the bracket. So they're all interesting in their own ways.
Yeah, I will say, based off my predictions, I didn't do yours, but I did write down mine. For the most part, if the predictions that I took happen or occur the way that I did them, you're not going to see much of a change in the bracket. I can put that back up here too, because there won't be a ton of movement from what we were looking at earlier with this bracket. So I think for the most part, you're mainly going to see it stay the same. I don't know, Zach, are you thinking it may be hard to remember exactly all the ones you picked and all the tiebreakers of who would move where, but do you foresee much movement, maybe just 2-3 teams kind of moving around a little bit?
I mean, I think the only one I had different was Georgia State over Georgia Southern. So I'm not sure what exactly that does, but for the most part, I think it will stay the same.
Yeah, and if you had that, but ODU, did you have ODU winning or losing? I forget.
No, losing.
That's right, because that was a coastal.
Which would keep the bottom four the same.
Yes, that would keep the bottom four the same. And with the Cajuns lost, I think they still own the tiebreaker over Georgia Southern, so that would keep them above. So that's the first 6 teams all staying in the same place. Yeah, I think if anything, the movement's right there at the middle. Could App State beat Marshall and jump into 5th? Does that matter, right? I mean, I don't know. Looking at that 5-6 matchup and who you've got coming up from either side of the bracket, the only thing that I'd say is I'm looking forward to who you possibly face on that side more than I'm looking backwards and being concerned, right? Because if you're in the 5-6 seed, I don't know about you, Zach, you're going to play who you're going to play, right? You don't have to worry about that. The ones I'm thinking about, as a fan are who do we have to go up against to get further along, right? That's, I guess, the optimistic outlook, but I don't know, man. But I am excited to get this thing rolling, and I know that Friday is going to be pretty crazy. We've got baseball on the slate. We've got basketball on the slate, but obviously basketball a little bit closer to the end of the season. Well, it is the end of the season. It is the last game of regular season. So do we think a team gets an NIT bid? That's a good question. It's hard for me too, Zach. I know you probably have a better thought process on that because I pay so much attention to Sunbelt specific basketball and teams. I'm not really sure if I know enough of the other teams that, we're looking that we'd probably be up against in that sense. I don't know what you would think on that.
I mean, it all depends on like how the bracket goes and then how like other conference tournaments go or end of the year.
I guess that's true. Yeah. From the outside perspective, again, this is me just thinking of the teams in the conference, how A-State's done so far. I'm probably leaning toward yes. If they win this last one, they go into the conference tournament, get one of those highest 4 seeds, maybe one of the top 2, possibly if their outcomes happen that they'd hope for. And if they don't win the tournament, they only go in and have to play one game and they lose it, but only having that, then at that point, that'd be their 10th loss of the year. I think they could, but we saw last year App State taking the regular season title, getting an NIT bid, but they didn't even get a home game. They had to go on the road to Wake Forest. So
yeah, but also that App State team was like overall better than the other teams at the top of the conference this year.
True. Yeah, I would agree. I think both JMU and App State were superior to the teams at the top at this point in time. But in a good way, I think there's more parity, maybe. Like we said, not really a surprise to see any of the top 4, where last year I think most people were surprised that it wasn't App State and JMU in the final.
I also think it also has to do with like a bunch of like national narratives, and I think the national narrative this year is like the Sun Belt's kind of having a down year, so that could have a lot to do with it as well.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, like I said, because it also means that there's quite a bit happening up at the top that makes it more fun for us on a weekly basis and a daily matchup type look. But yeah, I would agree. I don't think you have, for instance, last year you had a ton of people talking about JMU and what they were going to be able to accomplish because everyone essentially knew they were going to be a tournament team before the conference tournament ever even started, right? Like, even if they got tripped up somewhat early, they were going to end up as an at-large at the very least. But I don't think anybody is in that position this year, right? Zach, no one's going as an at-large, even if they get, I don't know. Do you think A-State would have any shot as an at-large if they somehow tripped up in the conference tournament?
No.
Okay.
I think, their out of conference their in conference was just too bad, I think. If they would have the same out of conference resume, like losing on the road to Alabama in a close game and then beating Memphis on the road and then coming in and dominating the Sun Belt, losing maybe like one game and then losing in the championship game, maybe.
Yeah.
But like with 9 losses, with a lot of those being in the Sun Belt, I don't see that happening.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I don't think national prominence, like if you go see, I think you follow him too, the T3 bracketology guy on Twitter. You follow that guy?
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of bracketology stuff.
Yeah, so he does it throughout the season, and obviously in the last couple weeks he's put together his graph or look on the seedings and where he would kind of place teams as locks, should be in, that kind of stuff. He's never, no, I think he had A-State after they beat Memphis and had a close game with Alabama. They may have been on the radar at that point. And since then, whatever loss or two A-State suffered soon after that, no Sun Belt team has made an appearance on his graph. So that guy knows what he's doing. He's been doing it for a long period of time. He's very successful at what he gets right. So I'm going to favor his thought process and knowledge when it comes to this and say that Zach's right too. There's no shot as anybody getting that large bit. And the only one that we even put at the list at all is A-State, right? There's not even anybody else who's close.
Maybe JMU is, but also I think the loss of the Pac-12 has hurt mid-majors in the sense of getting an at-large bid because it's made the Power 5 stronger.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Which makes their resumes much better, even if their record might be a lot worse. Their resume is a lot better because they're playing better teams because there's more teams in their conference. Yeah,
that's a very good point, especially for a team or teams in the Big Ten specifically. I don't know if the additions in the ACC were all that strong basketball wise. Do you? I think that the additions in the ACC are all at the bottom. I think is what I had seen.
I don't even know. Yeah, that was. I guess some of the Pac-12s have been, or the Big 12s have been really good.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Like Arizona has been really good for them. But, especially the Big 10, I would say.
Good point. Some final thoughts from some guys before we wrap it up here. To be honest, outside of Sunbelt, I just don't want to see the Razorbacks in March Madness.
Well, it looks like it's going to happen after their last few games.
Yeah. That would be I think that would be a great first round matchup if that were to be the case. A-State versus Arkansas. I'm all for it. Michael doesn't want to see West Virginia in the tournament either. Yeah. I don't know. Do you know off the top of your head how good West Virginia is this year?
They were really good at the start of the year. I'm looking them up real quick. Their point guard, their best player, I went to high school with.
Oh, nice. Chris Ellis is unfortunately not. I think he's referring to the chance of A-State being an at-large. I think he's agreeing with this.
West Virginia, 17-11. They're probably on the bubble.
Okay.
I don't think Arkansas has to win the SEC. If they knock off a few more teams, I think they're in. They're probably in like the first four out right now. So. Okay.
That's what's his name's there now, right? Calipari.
Yep.
For me, I've never been a Calipari fan, so I'd love to see him miss out.
My friend's a diehard Kentucky fan, so he always defends Calipari, and I always kind of crack jokes he's not that good of a coach and all this stuff, but he always defended him. And then when Calipari left, now he's like anti-Calipari, and now he's like on my side. I'm like, you defended that man for like 10 years about how he was like the greatest thing ever.
Oh man, yeah. I know some people that love that guy. I don't really know that they were Kentucky fans. They just liked him for some reason, which is kind of weird. But App State News, Weston saying, I would not want to see UNC Asheville in the tournament. I'm not as familiar with UNC Asheville this year. I know in the past, Zach, I don't know, you're a little bit younger, but I feel like Asheville always has like some major big dude in the center who's not very athletic, but they get a lot of looks in the tournaments because they've got some dominant force down on the inside, because one player like that in a conference like Asheville's in could make a big difference.
I mean, UNC Asheville's leading scorer is a former App State guard, Jordan Marsh from last year.
That's right. Okay.
He's averaging 19 a game for him.
I know. I can't believe that kid left, man.
Yeah, he played 11 minutes a game for App State last year. Now he's averaging 19 a game for UNC Asheville. Kind of.
Can you imagine if? Now, I'm not saying he has the same production value in the Sun Belt. I don't know that. Maybe to be even better, because maybe the conference Asheville's in is more competitive. I don't really know.
They have they're second in the conference, but High Point's really, really good. So
yeah, High Point, very good. It would be interesting to see, if Marsh was still on the App State roster, with the fact that they can't consistently get a third guy to show up.
It'd also be hard because, that would be a small backcourt with him and Tate.
Yeah, that's true.
And defensively, that would probably be disgusting with two small guys like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. All right, man. Any final notes before Friday's action?
No, should be interesting, and we'll finally get the crazy bracket tomorrow night.
Yeah, man, I'm excited to see what it looks like in the end. I don't foresee a ton of movement, but maybe some crazy stuff happens, and some people. I think the most spots though that any one team can jump is 3. It's not going to get any crazier than that.
No matter what happens, the bracket's going to go viral on Twitter. So
yes, that's true. That's a good point. And I believe, hours before that, the football schedules will all come out. So it's going to be a big day for the Sun Belt tomorrow.
I didn't know that. I've seen a lot of the football schedule, like the not confirmed, but I didn't know that they came out tomorrow. Is it like the official like dates for the conference?
It'll be I believe, mostly the weeks that they'll play the teams.
Okay. Yeah.
Confirmed. The weekday games I think will be confirmed. None of the times will be assigned yet. So if you have a Thursday matchup with Coastal and App State, you're going to know it tomorrow, kind of thing.
It probably won't be it might not be a Thursday, but it'll definitely be a weekday game.
Yeah, I'm thinking so. That one's been routinely weekday for the last.
Just so they can get on ESPN.
Yep.
Main ESPN, but sometimes it's on like a Tuesday, and it's just weird.
Yeah, I hate Tuesday. Wednesday games are weird. Thursday games, totally fine with. I feel like that works, but yeah. Ben wants a March Madness show. We will definitely be doing a March Madness show. No matter who makes it out of the Sun Belt, we will be heavily focused on that one team going into tournament time, and that's going to take a whole lot of extra homework, right, Zach? Really, you're just looking at 2 teams, but you probably want to have an idea of what could happen ahead of them and all that stuff as well. But we'll have to see. Michael's saying Sunbelt football is going to be fun, especially seeing the new Marshall team this year. Excuse me.
Better watch out for the shots.
Yeah,
this place rolling.
I think there's going to be a ton of parity, man. App State is totally. We just previewed them last night. I want to preview more teams too, so we'll see if we can get that.
It'll be interesting year in football.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of make or break years. I feel like.
Here we go. Maybe some breaking news. Watch for Coastal at App being a Tuesday night game. I would hate that.
I wouldn't be surprised.
For Sunbelt TV, it might be good, but for fans to make the game, I don't like it. App State will still sell it out, I feel like, but it's going to be rough for the fans, especially me, who's 3 hours each direction to go to a Tuesday night game. But I've done it. I've gone down to Coastal and back in one night before. It's 6 hours round trip, but it can be done. Just not a whole lot of fun the next day at work. Chris we just want to hang on to our coach for another year and keep next year's signing class. I don't foresee the coach going anywhere, but I've been wrong before, so we'll have to see. Just signed that big extension. I know that doesn't necessarily mean much because somebody could come in and pull a Calipari and offer him crazy money, but I don't know. I don't know if I see that just yet. I think maybe some people may want to see a little bit more from him specifically before he would get some kind of crazy big offer. Thoughts on UConn and Kansas in basketball?
They're both early exits.
Oh, okay. There you go. I was going to say Zach's going to be your man on that question because that's not a me question. I have not watched enough other basketball this year to know that.
They're both early exits, I think.
Okay, I'm going to remember that for my bracket, Zach. You better not vote me in the wrong direction. And Ben wants us to watch out for A-State in football. I thought A-State was going to be team to be messed with this year, but unfortunately, that was not the case for them. But they have some talent, so we'll see if they can get it done. All right, I think that finally wraps it up for us. Just over an hour tonight. Hopefully that was enough coverage, but not too long. And we will get you all wrapped up. I am on vacation away from home next week, so we won't have one late next week. If we do one, maybe, Zach, we can record or do a live shortly after the bracket comes out. Not Friday night, not Saturday night, probably. Maybe Sunday night. We'll see. We'll be in touch about that. When we know that, we will share that across the Twitterverse and whatnot and see you guys here on the next stream. But, Zach, any last words before we jump out of here?
Nope.
All right. See you guys next time. Appreciate it.